I'm creating art with the wild. When you're photographing a human, you can direct them. You're not only dealing with the fact that animals are unpredictable, in the sense that they can just do whatever they want. You can't direct them, which is the beauty of it, in my opinion. That's what I would say to all women in the space too. Just don't let the societal pressures of what you should be doing stop you from trying.
What's the bucket list photo?
That's a great question.
Hello and welcome back to the Full Frame Podcast presented by Sony. Today I'm sitting down with new Sony Ambassador Kate Newman. She's a wildlife photographer based in Melbourne and she's up nice and early this morning to join us in the studio. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
How was the flight?
It was pretty good, apart from the delays.
Yeah, that's all right. Well,
stressful.
You made it here.
I made it here, so I'm happy to be here. I am slightly intimidated, mainly due to the fact that I never show my face online.
Yeah, but you got a fancy new profile picture.
I do. I also never talk on camera, so this is double whammy.
Double whammy.
Double whammy. But
so bear with us.
Bear with us. I feel pretty good though.
Okay, sweet.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So you've been shooting for about 4.5 years. You know, talk us through that journey, like how it started. You know, some of the things that made it challenging, or kind of like what it's like working in the industry.
So I started at the end of 2020s when I got my first camera, and it was a secondhand Sony A7 III.
Sweet.
And I do call that my life-changing camera because it just changed the game in terms of how I photographed. I did have a camera beforehand, but I just used it how the everyday person would, just point shoot on auto. Even when I went to wildlife destinations, it was just, I thought they were the best.
Better to get the image than not to get the image.
Yeah, but I thought they were the best photos ever. Like I had absolutely no idea what I was doing and they were all blurry, like it was just disaster. And then I got this camera and I just learnt, I taught myself everything that I could, watched YouTube channels, just like made my camera an extension of myself. I just wanted it to be a simple thing to use, which it wasn't when I first got it. Obviously, I had no idea what I was doing. And I just wanted to learn how to use it in manual to get photos that I wanted to get. So I just researched as much as I could. And then it's just kind of snowballed from there. Just started posting online. And now I just have this amazing community that is very supportive of me and buys my prints and comes on my workshops.
That's
now
so
I'm
sweet.
here.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
So you were just shooting locally when you started?
Yep.
Yeah.
In my backyard during COVID.
Backyard.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
I think that's also an important thing to note because I was very lucky to live on acreage where I had wildlife and birds and all these creatures that I could photograph at the time because I was in an area of Melbourne that was in a really strict lockdown, like 10-kilometre radius or something at the time, so I couldn't go anywhere. I just photographed whatever I could, which is what I recommend everyone doing.
Yeah,
start in your backyard.
Yeah,
literally in your backyard. Like most people have access to a bird or two in Australia, especially.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
Very lucky. So I just practice and practice and practice.
How important is it for your career that you did start taking those trips overseas? Because obviously there's a big difference between shooting locally and then shooting abroad.
I actually think locally was what took it off, to be honest, because I realised that there was a gap in the market in Australia in terms of wildlife photographers that did things creatively. There's a lot of, I'm generalising here. There are a lot of amazing photographers, but I just felt like there was a gap in what I could do in terms of workshops and print sales as well. There was a lot of the natural documentary style photography of animals rather than the more creative side of that. So the local stuff is actually what took it off, I think.
Because I think when I think about your style, I think it's very authentic and natural, but stylized. So it's not necessarily, you're not changing the image, you're not changing the behavior, you're not, but you're also not just presenting it as like a straight out of camera JPEG. Like it is stylized, but in a really beautiful way.
I appreciate you saying that because a lot of the time I think people think that I'm really manipulating the photo, but I'm not. The photo is still the photo. It's just the color and the tone that I use to make it look more creative.
Yeah, well, but
it's a certain style of creativity though, because there's also a creative element of just a natural photo out of camera.
Yeah.
And but the issue I think with wildlife photography is that is what's idolized a bit. People love the real natural documentary style photography rather than creative ones, and it can be really divisive. Unfortunately,
I think of that about my own work about my own work too. Is I try to, I'm not changing or altering what was there. I'm just making it look a little bit better.
Yes, for sure. But I do think it's much easier to do with an animal than it is with a person. Or like I can't do any other genre of photography. Like I seriously can't, which is really interesting because a lot of people say the opposite. They can't take photos of animals. Or people can, but they often struggle with it more than I think the other genres can kind of work together. And
yeah, definitely. There's a lot of like multidisciplinary kind of crossover.
Yes, whereas with wildlife, there's not really.
Yeah.
Apart from like just nature stuff, but yeah, there's not much. I think a lot of wildlife photographers just do wildlife photography, which is how I fit in as well.
And that comes from the passion.
Comes from the passion for sure. I just don't like taking photos of humans. I love humans.
Because I know that wildlife is a particularly hard genre to kind of get your foot in the door, not just from a professional level, but even as a beginner doing it casually. Because, you know, like there's a lot of landscape photographers and that's because it's accessible.
Yes.
It's, you know, anyone, if you have even a beginner camera, you just need a tripod, or not even a tripod these days. But you can go out to access a location that's beautiful, right time of day. I always laugh because there's that joke where it's like F8 and be there. Like
I love that.
That's the joke. That's the joke with landscape is that if you're in a nice spot and the light's already pretty, then if you F8 and you're there, that's all you need. But it is quite hard. Like when did you get your first telephoto? Like you said, you picked up an A7 Mark III. How soon after that were you like, all right, I need to buy something long?
It was like a month later.
A month later?
Yeah, maybe not even. Like it was pretty quick. I kind of went into it knowing that I wanted to do wildlife photography, so I had to
because that can be pretty prohibitive, I think, at the beginner end, because obviously there's some species that you can only capture on a telly.
Yeah, but I do think starting with what you have is what builds the creative juices in you.
It also informs you to let you know like why you need that.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. But you can I think birds is really hard without a big telephoto, but you can photograph more environmental portraits of animals, depending on what you've got in front of you. But you can do that with a shorter lens, and that's what you should start with. Just start with whatever you have.
Yeah.
I was just lucky that I didn't have any other equipment though. I just had an A7 III real. I think must have been less than. I think I must have bought them pretty much at the same time.
Yeah.
That I didn't have anything else, so I just went straight to a telephoto. I still got it.
The 100, 400?
Same thing I use.
Thought so.
I don't use anything else. It's my favorite. So I bought that and now here I am. And I've only upgraded to an A7 IV. Now I have an A1 Mark II, but which I haven't actually really had the chance to use. I only just got it, right? I only just got it.
That's exciting.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Do you think you'll use the pre-capture?
Probably not.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've been shooting birds a little bit and the pre-capture's pretty fun.
Depending on the animal, I think.
Okay.
But I just love the idea that I have to get it. Yeah. You know, I have to have the timing right. But I think it depends on the animal. Like if it's something that's really flighty or you can't predict it, then yes, for sure.
Okay.
Like that's what it's there
curious.
for. That's what it's there for. But in general, probably not. Like because I'm so selective to begin with, I don't want extra photos to deal with.
Yeah. When you're shooting, are you looking for like that one hero shot, or are you shooting kind of a collection and then narrowing it down?
Both.
A bit of both?
Yeah. Depends on, it's very hard because it really does depend on the animal. Like every animal is so different. So I might have a species in front of me and I can visualize exactly what I want. But then there's others where I'm just going for it and then I work on it later. Yeah. Which I often say spray and pray.
Spray and pray.
Spray and pray. You just like there's certain animals where you just got to take as many photos as you can and work on your hero shot later.
Yeah.
In how you edit it and how you crop it, because sometimes it happens so fast. Animals are so fast moving and they just it'll change in an instant. So you just have to take as much as you can and then work on it.
What's that editing process look like for you?
It's long.
Long?
Yeah. Long.
Yeah.
The way do you mean like in terms of how I get my style?
Yeah.
Or just from start to finish? Yeah,
like just a brief overview, because like your images have such a high level of separation between the subject and the background. And like there's such consistency across your work. So I just want to dig into that briefly.
It's majority in Lightroom, but all of it is really based on my tone curve. I don't use the RGB curves. I just use the S. Is it just tone curve? I think.
Yeah, just
right?
the
general tone curve. And I don't really touch that. I don't have any presets. It's all from scratch.
Okay.
The only thing I will do is because every animal and every scene is so different and the colours in that are so
you're
different.
shooting in a lot of different lighting conditions, but you still have this soft blue
specific.
hue to all of the backgrounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will apply that tone curve, and that kind of gives me the baseline of my whites and blacks, the contrast in it.
Yeah.
I will occasionally adjust the middle points, but the right-hand side and left-hand side, white and blacks, I don't touch. And that just gives me the softness in the blacks that I like. And then I don't really do much in the general, what's the general area of Lightroom? Just basic
like the
adjustments.
highlights, shadows, whites and blacks.
What's the word I'm looking for there? Anyway.
Basic corrections.
The basic corrections. I don't do much of that. It's all in masking.
Ah, okay.
Because
you want to be very selective.
A stupid
How many
amount.
masks?
Oh, like 50 to 100.
50 to 100.
Yep.
I think I'm having a great day when I put like 2 masks on a photo.
No, it's super specific. It's so funny when I'm teaching workshops, they're like, what are you doing? They're like, you need to get an iPad.
What are these masks for? Like, because when I would use them, I'd be to adjust, say, maybe like part of the sky or to bring out facial features or something. But what are you using them and how selective are we getting?
Very
okay.
selective. I'm zooming in every eyelash.
Eyelash.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Okay.
That's
the detail I wanted. That's the detail.
So if I just applied contrast in the basic, like a global adjustments, it would just go across the whole thing. It wouldn't give you the separation between my subject and the background. And that's what I want. I want that. So I'm very selective on where I apply contrast and how I do that. And then, color adjustments in every way possible.
Yeah.
And I'm just constantly checking. I use like an app on my phone or with the how you can compare it on Lightroom.
Oh,
dragging
you've got the review section.
Yes. Then I'm comparing it to make sure the tones are right. It's not so specific that every blue is exactly the same, but the tone is there.
Yeah.
Green tone blues, blue tone greens, that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I feel like looking at your feed or your body of work, it is very consistent. So the fact that you're editing them all from scratch is kind of crazy.
Yes, I'm very specific. Well, because every green is different. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I want it to be kind of similar.
Yeah.
So if I applied a preset, it just wouldn't work because you have to make adjustments anyway. And I feel like you're just backtracking.
Yeah, okay. That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. So if there's a scene, if there's a lot of different animals or different photos from the same scene, I'll just copy and paste the edit. I'll do one and copy and paste the edit over so that I don't have to literally start from scratch every time. But it just makes it easier. I find it much more simple to do it from scratch. I think, though, that's because I'm so specific and I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And
so if you're doing that level of editing, that also explains kind of like the volume of work. Where
it takes me forever.
Yeah, like when I see you post an image, it is a hero image. Whereas I'm bad because I just post like carousel after carousel.
I love that though. I feel like it's slightly to my detriment that I'm so particular about it, but it's also not though. I think that's really helped me in ways. But we're in very different
different fields. That's why this is exciting to talk about.
Super different fields. Like I can't do what you do. I can't. It's a totally different world to me. But I think a lot of people need to think of it though. Like what I tell people is with wildlife photography, you can go in 2 directions. You can go the documentary style where you're literally just documenting the animal and making it look beautiful, obviously. And that's a totally different talent. Or you can go down the creative route where you want it to be art, which is what I like to say. Like I'm creating art with the wild is what I like to say.
Is it the tagline on your website?
Tagline, yeah. I actually don't know what my tagline is. It should be though. So I want it to be something that is unique and that someone will want on their wall. That's the main thing here because I sell so many prints now that I don't want just a photo of a bird. I want a photo of a bird that's someone's going to want. And you also have to, a lot of wildlife photography is you connect with it because you were there in the moment and you saw that animal. And you might think it's a beautiful image, but is it something that someone else actually would want?
Yeah, are they going to feel that same connection by looking at it as a third party?
Yeah, and that might not be the same. Like my favorite photo is not necessarily my most popular print.
Yeah, okay.
kind of is, but
It kind
but
of is,
but it doesn't always match up that way.
Mm.
So,
do you find that you tend to shoot more minimal scenes then? Because I know from experience talking to other photographers, people buying prints generally want something more minimal, not like a super busy scene.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
Minimal, yeah. And I'm also very specific on, back to your point on like how I develop a style, I'm also very specific on how I photograph. So it's always in portrait. And I'm looking for a scene that is minimal. Like I'm not interested in one that's got a crazy background or like there's a lot of distractions, because it's just not my style. So it's not necessarily just about the edit, it's about what you photograph and how you photograph it. I think that makes it cohesive.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd say very cohesive.
It feels weird to say that, but people tell me it's cohesive, so I'm going to go with it.
But obviously that's also good from a professional level as well, like we talked about earlier. It's like it's highly identifiable as opposed to, say, like a very not minimal, I would say a very untouched image where, you know, there's no real, like the brush strokes. Like this is going to sound really weird, but like when you look at someone's work like yours, where you can see there's a consistent style or an appreciation for a certain color or something like that, it's like seeing the artist's brush strokes on a painting, as opposed to just seeing a perfectly clean image, which has no real identifiable kind of feature that links it to the artist. Wow, I don't know how I came up with that.
That was great. I'm going to tell that in my workshop.
That's going in the Instagram edit.
It will. That's great.
Yeah.
No, I agree though, because it's how do you, especially when you're in a car, going back to safari, I think in Australia it's a bit different because you're not necessarily in a car photographing. Our animals aren't dangerous, so I mean,
luckily,
unless you're with like a dangerous snake or something. But in general, you can move around, and that's how you can get creative with it. When you're in a vehicle and you can't necessarily move around, you have to think about how am I going to make this a photo that's different to the other people in the car with me?
Especially when they're shooting like a foot away from you.
Yeah, well, they're all going to look the same. So then you can either go down, you can look at how you're going to crop it, you can look at how you're going to edit it, and how you're going to make that something that stands out compared to everyone else. But that's not necessarily to say that one is better than the other.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Not at all. And the same, I love documentary style photography in many ways, but it's just not me. It doesn't feel like me in any way.
Yeah. So when you come back from a trip like that, how soon are you planning the next one?
Very.
Back to back?
Yeah. Yeah, it depends. And now a lot of them are workshop based, so they're yearly.
What's the industry like? Because it's generally an older demographic and very male dominated.
It is very male dominated. I think the thing with women in wildlife photography or in any photography genre is that there's not a lack of women, it's a lack of representation of those women. So now that I'm in the space, I've realized that there actually is a lot of women, but the men they're at the forefront in
louder.
terms of, they're much louder, and they're represented more across the industry. But it's pretty good, but you do encounter some weird people and they say weird things to you. But I think that's just the joys of being a woman. Unfortunately, I don't think it matters what field you're in. But yeah, people will sexualize you and they'll make comments to you about the size of your lens and just make stupid comments like that. And they also don't believe you. That's what I've noticed. Like I sell prints at markets and my name is plastered on the front. I've got a banner with my name. There's a photo of my face. And if my partner's there, they look straight to him.
Really?
They look straight over my shoulder. They are like, "Oh, you're like, you take amazing photos." And he's like, "It's her." Like my face is there. Like it's literally at the front. And they look straight past you. Like they just don't think you're.
Did you suffer some of that criticism about, because like we said, you've only been doing this for 4 and a bit years and look where you are. Do you find that because of that shorter time frame, people are a lot more critical, or?
People are, I think they're impressed once they find out and they believe you. But in general, especially on the internet, people will criticize you on top of the fact that you're a woman. You also haven't been doing it very long. So why should you get recognition, or why should you be teaching workshops? But that's just ridiculous, though. It's so ridiculous. So it's definitely a challenge, but that's across all photography genres, I think. It's not specific to wildlife photography, but it definitely is challenging to get your name out there on top of all the other challenges of just being paid in an industry that is in wildlife photography that's hard to be paid in general.
Yeah.
Then you're also going up against that challenge of...
Are you using your workshops to also lift up other female photographers?
80% of them are women.
That's amazing.
So I'm pretty proud of that. But I like most amazing men on there as well. Love the guys that join. But it is 80% across. I mean, I haven't done a heap at this point, but from what I've done so far.
Yeah, but that's really good because you're using not only your own position and your own skill and your and everything, but like lifting up the rest of your community.
Yeah,
I think that's really powerful.
I think also women especially want to, especially a long trip that's multi-days, because they're all multi-days. I don't do any single day shoots or workshops. They feel safer with a woman as well, which is sad. It is quite sad, but I think the fact that there's someone that they can, I don't want to say they look up to me because that feels weird for me to say. It feels weird for me to say, but they're looking at someone that hasn't been doing it for very long. They don't see a lot of women in wildlife photography, and there's someone that they can feel safe with
and relate to.
And relate to.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's why they find interest in that. But there are a lot of women though. There's a lot of women in the space. It's just hard to get your name out there. And I'm not sure how to fix that.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. And that's what I would say to all women in the space too. Just don't let the societal pressures of what you should be doing stop you from trying and like just sharing your art and not caring what people say, because you'll get criticism. And I get criticism sometimes too. Especially in the wildlife photography community that is very, like I said, they're very much into the documentary style of...
Like there's an entrenched kind of expectation.
Yes, of what a good wildlife photo is, or what someone that is high up in the space should be doing with their imagery. That, I think, can make it really difficult to step into the space as well.
Especially if you are trying to do something different. Because then not only are you not part of the quote-unquote boys club, but then you're also doing something different. Yeah. And there's not a heap of male photographers, and I hope that they do. Like if there's someone that wants to be really creative, I think they need to. Like it's important for everybody to express themselves creatively. But when I look at overall in wildlife photography, a lot of the male photographers are very documentary style, not overly creative. Like they are creative in their own way, but in terms of like color and tone and in a similar way to how I do it, there's not that many. So then they look down on you for doing, like you said, doing something different. It's going against the grain a little bit. Yeah, which I love.
Well, you got to do it. I think.
I agree.
You got to do it.
Yeah. So when you first started, you mentioned that you were kind of just shooting at home on your property, and so that would have obviously been like a very small variety of species. And what's the progression like between shooting casually like that to where you are now?
I think with photographing at home, I was able to really develop a style, and that style has helped me grow into it being a progression. I think when a lot of people start photographing wildlife, they're just doing it to photograph the species as is and not necessarily creating art with that.
Okay.
That
I
species.
think that's a really good point to touch on.
Yeah. So then once you develop that, and then you can try and turn it into a career, but the career itself is quite hard to dive into because you also have the issue of not being like an animal doesn't pay you necessarily. Well, it doesn't at all compared to like photographing a human, or even if you look at all other industries, to be honest, like a human is your client. Any human really can pay you, but when you are working with animals, the select amount of clients is quite small because you're dealing with
what does that look like? Is it like obviously some people sell prints, some people run workshops, some people write for publications and sell images or stock images potentially? Like what's the kind of diversity in your clients for that?
So once I developed the style, it was the progression was kind of natural in the sense that I didn't know how to make money. I didn't go into it thinking I'm going to be a professional wildlife photographer and this is how I'm going to make money.
Yeah.
It was, this is the style that I love, and I've created this a style that's unique to me. Well, I've tried to be.
No, I think it definitely is. Like your style is, and the way you edit as well is also very, I think, iconically you.
Thank you.
And very identifiable, which I think is really good as a photographer. If someone can see one of your images and go, oh, that's a Kate Newman, I think that's a very powerful tool.
I appreciate that.
That's all right.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
So once I figured that out, then it was the case of realizing people wanted prints. So I did that. Then I thought, well, I had people interested in learning from me. So then I was like, that's how I'm going to monetize next. And then over the course of the start point of picking up my camera to where I am now, it's just been a learning curve of testing the waters. This is how I can make money. Then this pops up and that's how I can make money, and so on and so on.
Yeah, okay.
So it's just been a very natural progression. It wasn't like a dive in and this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to make money. I just had to test it out.
When did you kind of decide that you needed to do an overseas trip for wildlife? Because obviously there's a big market for wildlife photography in terms of people that are interested in it and interested in learning it. But, you know, there is that differentiating factor between someone who shoots, say, local birds versus someone who's like running safari or traveling overseas.
Well, before I got my camera, I traveled quite a lot to a lot of wildlife destinations.
Okay,
it's always been an interest of mine. So even my travels in the past, I'd been to the Amazon and Borneo and all these places, and Kenya before I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
So that had always been something that was of interest to me. But I think also a lot of people don't realize that especially in Australia, we have wildlife everywhere.
Yeah.
So you can start in your backyard or anywhere. For example, like just there's kangaroos everywhere. Like they're everywhere. So go and practice on things like that. You don't necessarily have to go and do an overseas trip to be a good wildlife photographer. Because I think the way that you make a standout image is by photographing an animal in a way that hasn't been seen before, or showcasing something that isn't often captured.
Yeah.
So,
and like you said, it's mixing the art with, say, like the more raw documentarian kind of image where it's just like, this is what was in front of you.
Yes.
How important is understanding like location and animal behavior and things like that? Because obviously you put a telephoto lens on any camera, you can shoot something at distance. But where is that point for you where like the knowledge of the species actually informs how you would shoot it?
I think it's everything.
Everything? Okay.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
Yeah. Literally everything. Because like there's so many examples that I can think of where I'll give you a couple.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was an instance on my past workshop in Far North Queensland where we were with a cassowary. And there was a juvenile cassowary, and our guide James, shout out to James, he's a legend. He said someone else had spotted some adult cassowaries, and he was like, they're going to go this way. Yeah. We're like, so it was in dense shrubs, like right in the bush of the Daintree. And he was like, they're going to go this way. So we all ran, literally ran.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, literally. Through this path to the other side, and they were there in this wide open area. Like he knew exactly where they were. And if we didn't know that and knew their route, then you would be stuck in really dense, low light environment, which just doesn't make the best photos. And there's another instance where when I was in Kenya, so you don't necessarily have to know the animal yourself personally. Obviously that helps you. But if you're with someone that also knows a lot about the animals.
And that comes from the experience of guides.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But it also comes from experience of you, even your local animals. Like it just makes the biggest difference. But in Kenya, we were with a pride of lions, and our guide was like, they're going to move to this watering hole. Like they're going to go this way. And we were sitting here. It was just us with this huge pride of lions and cubs. And he was like, they're going to go this way. Let's beat them to it, because you have to get ahead of the animal. Otherwise, you're just chasing their tail. Like it's not what you want to do. So he took us up there, and then lo and behold, they walked through right up this open area to this watering hole with mountains in the background. It was just like
perfect.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think with animals, like if you think of when you're photographing a human, you can direct them, obviously.
Yeah.
Even when you're thinking of street photography and things like that, you can
you understand the behavior, so it's predictable.
Yeah, yes. But if with a human, you can direct someone and do those, like you can, even with the street photography, you could wait until another person passes or any genre, you can direct someone. You're not only dealing with the fact that animals are unpredictable in the sense that they can just do whatever they want. You can't direct them, which is the beauty of it, in my opinion. But if you know their behavior and not necessarily that at this time of day they're going to go this way.
Yeah.
It's just watching their mannerisms and knowing that their next move is going to be here, so that then you can get into a position where you're going to get a shot that's better than just an animal laying on the ground or something like that.
Yeah. Are you looking for kind of iconic behaviors to photograph, or are you kind of – this is one of the questions I was kind of preparing. I was wondering, as someone who's like dabbled in wildlife, it's like, do you chase good light and then look for the behaviors, or are you chasing the behaviors and the species and then just hope that there's good conditions? Like, I'm just curious, like, what is the process?
Behavior and species always, not the lighting.
Yeah.
Because if you go by lighting, I think you're limiting yourself slightly if you only condition yourself to shoot in a certain light. But also, like, if I think of some of my personal favourite photos, they are from midday harsh light.
Okay.
So even like the one that I personally love the most is of a giraffe and zebras under an acacia tree. That's midday under the shade, like in the shade of an umbrella tree is what they call them.
Oh, that's cute. I like that. I like that. Yeah.
So they were hiding from the harsh sun, and obviously it makes it more difficult to photograph, but if you don't go out at midday because it's not the best lighting, then you won't get amazing encounters with animals.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking about that because you also love capturing flying foxes.
Yes.
And I know that there's kind of that 1 to 2 hours before sunset when they all start to leave the colony, where they'll be traversing and kind of moving around between each of the trees in the colony. And that's like the best time to photograph flying foxes because they're not asleep, but they're very active, but they're not, gone yet.
Yes. I actually prefer it slightly before that time.
Okay.
Because if you go to the right colony, they are often moving between spots anyway. They don't like to just stay in one place and sleep. They'll start fighting with another one, or something will happen and then it'll fly to a different spot in the tree. So that is ideal because you've got the slightly higher light, the sun's slightly higher, so you're going to get more of a see-through through the wing.
Yeah.
You get more detail. So that's when I prefer it, but obviously it depends on what you want to photograph. But I will go at any time of the day.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting because, I think, like you said, knowing the species and then like you just gave a really hot tip about, getting light through the wing on a flying fox. But are there any other like little bits of like little nuggets of information like that about other species, like particularly local ones for any Australian wildlife photographers?
Australian animals can be quite hard.
They're also a lot of them are nocturnal.
A lot of them are nocturnal.
Yeah.
And if you think of a lot of people want to photograph echidnas, but they are so unpredictable. You have no idea where they're going to be. They don't have like a burrow necessarily. They move around and they can be sleeping for ages and they won't come out. So they're very unpredictable. But yeah, Australian animals, you just got to wing it, I think. There's the flying fox is probably the main one I would say. The only time that I do try and be specific on the time of day is if I want to photograph with the moon, which I do love doing.
Yeah.
That's the only time,
just as like a nice background element.
Yeah.
Is that for mainly birds and flying foxes, I'm guessing?
Birds and flying foxes. I don't think birds and flying foxes.
Yeah,
I do really want to get a photo of like a mammal in Kenya with a moon, rising moon.
Is that the dream shot? What's the bucket list photo? Like that one photo that you really, you've seen it in your mind's eye.
Probably that. Yeah. There's a photo. Shout out to Jason Charles Hill. I told him this at Kando. He has a photo of two zebras with the rising moon. It's dark though.
Like silhouette?
And that's I don't know how he did it. Okay. Jason, you need to tell me how you did it. No, I don't want to copy that, but that's one of my favorite photos ever.
Yeah.
Wildlife photos. And then ever since then, I've kind of just loved photographing with the moon, but in a slightly different way. during the day more than nighttime rising moon. His is, I think it's just full moon shining on the zebras.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Maybe like blood moon or super moon.
Yeah,
that would be very cool.
That would be cool. But it does make it hard with when it's dark. So I try and do like a gibbous, I think that's the moon phase.
Waxing or waning.
Waxing or waning gibbous, because that's generally when they're rising or setting just before sunrise or sunset.
It also makes balancing the exposure a bit easier because you don't just have a full moon.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, probably that. But every time I go to Kenya, especially, because it's like in Australia I can plan photos a bit, not plan them, but I have more time. When you go to somewhere overseas, you've got a limited amount of time that you're there. So I often will write a list like, this is what I would love.
Yeah. Are you shooting in burst most of the time?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering, how many photos do you think you take on a trip? Like you said, Kenya. A lot?
I am
40,000?
No, not that much. I am pretty selective now. Like I know, like I don't take a photo of everything. I'm not going to photograph every bird that I see. I'm quite selective and I know what I want to
You know what the output is.
Yeah, and like when I'm looking at a scene, I know that this is a photo that I'm going to like. Otherwise, I'm happy to just watch it. So I'm quite selective of when I push the shutter.
Yeah. And that comes from experience as well.
Yes, for sure. Like in the beginning, you shouldn't do that. Like you want to take as many, well, not as many as you can, because then you might be overdoing it. You could end up with way too many, and then you're sorting through a stupid amount.
Yeah.
Especially an animal that's stationary. Like if you're photographing an animal that's sitting still, you don't need to take 1,000 photos of that. Yeah. But even when I think of stationary animals, I will still shoot in burst because you can capture things like flies or other moving elements around that animal that can add interest to an image. So
yeah. And even if their body is stationary, are you still looking for behaviors like opening the mouth or
or like a tail swish or something like that?
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and then obviously shooting burst helps because you can get like the right position of the tail.
The exact moment that it's placed where you want it to be.
Okay. Yeah. You've mentioned Kenya a couple of times. Is that still your dream destination? Or have you got any more on the list?
Dream destination would be Uganda or Rwanda, I'd say, for gorillas. That's a dream destination. But I love Kenya so much. I will be going there every year for them.
Every year? That's pretty cool.
It would be my 4th trip there this year.
Yeah.
For a workshop.
What's one species that what is your favorite species? And is it the same as your favorite one to photograph? Because this was another question. I like to ask this to a few wildlife photographers because at the heart of it, like it is about the passion for the wildlife. And it's funny when they say, I love to capture this, but my favorite animal is actually this.
I think it's probably aligned because I do love flying foxes.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think they're just so misunderstood.
Yeah. So
I love photographing them and they're just super interesting to capture as well. But I don't really, apart from that, I don't really have a favourite.
Okay.
I just
equally
they're
love them all.
Equal. I love them all. Yeah. But in Africa, for example, there are certain animals that I enjoy photographing more than others. They're not necessarily my favourite, but they're not my favourite. Do you know what I mean?
I was just thinking, like, because obviously, like, visually, some species are like really striking, like a zebra or a giraffe.
Yeah.
But they might not be the most exciting for behaviour.
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly. I'm just spitballing.
Giraffes actually are probably one of my top favourite to photograph.
Yeah.
But they're often wildlife photographers' most hated.
Really? Why is that?
Because they're just so weirdly shaped.
Like trying to fit them in the frame is interesting.
Yeah, and also like they can be cut off in weird places, or the horizon line will be in a weird spot, or or it just makes it a bit difficult to get the composition right. Yeah. But I love them because they do weird things.
Like what?
Like stick a tongue out, or get it up in their nose and do weird things. Or sit like when they're drinking, they spread their legs apart.
Oh, like was it Melvin from Madagascar?
Yes, yes. So I love giraffes. Yeah, I do love giraffes. But like a lion is also super charismatic because of the facial expressions and stuff. So I'm definitely more of a mammal person than a birder. Yeah, they just are more expressive. Like a bird, I love birds. Yeah, don't get it twisted. I do love birds, but they just. Like they don't have much facial movement. A beak will just open and close, but with a mammal they do
much more
things.
expressive.
Much more expressive.
What species are kind of on your to-do list, or like to like have any trips coming up where there's like do you plan a trip around a specific objective, or are you planning a trip around just to be in a location and see what happens?
I think it depends.
Okay,
Let's
elaborate on that.
So if I went to Uganda, it would definitely be to find gorillas and chimps.
Yeah.
Rwanda. Or like if I do really want to go to WA and find a numbat, I really want to find a numbat. They're just weird little creatures. But in general, I'm just going out and seeing what I find. I don't necessarily go out with a target species very often.
Do you think as you progress even further, it will become like that? Because obviously, like after doing it, what is it, 5 years now?
Yeah, four-ish. End of 2020 is when I got my camera.
That's crazy. I'm just going to look at that's crazy to see you where you are now.
Thank you.
Yeah, do you think eventually you will start to focus in on those like more elusive species, like kind of like the ones that are really going to become like a big project for you? Because that would be exciting.
I can't imagine myself ever being like a Nat Geo photographer that spends months searching for an animal. I just don't think that's me. I kind of like the challenge of just going out and seeing what happens. Like I don't spend a heap of time sitting with like hours I would spend with one animal, but I don't like go out searching for weeks on end to find something. Okay. But it might go that way. I can't really tell. I can't predict the future. Like maybe I would try and find a snow leopard or something. I could do that.
That would be cool. Yeah. I was just wondering because I feel like there's once you've traveled a lot and obviously shot a lot, you start to think about these very specific instances or these specific images that you really want to capture.
Yeah, even so, it's more so that I know the animals around and then I will have a vision in my head of like when I went to Kenya last time, I had written a list. I want to get a photo of a cheetah on a termite mound. It was like a thing that I wanted. But it was not necessarily like I'm going to find that because that can sometimes lead to being unethical, I think.
Yeah, okay.
In some ways, depends on the mindset. I think if you're being too specific about what you want to photograph and it can lead into a risky territory of doing things that aren't right.
Yeah. What's your experience with the ethics of wildlife photography, both in Australia and abroad? Because I'm wondering, obviously there's a lot of questions sometimes about safari and things like that. So like where do you sit on that?
Ethics are super important, obviously. You have to be. It's also, it goes further than just the animals. It's like respecting local people, acknowledging the traditional owners of the land, things like that. And even in your things you do with conservation, making sure that local people are at the centre of that as well. But in terms of ethics, there's issues more so on safari. So in Kenya, there's a lot of talk about that because especially during the migration and things, people can crowd animals and it's not just Kenya specific though, it happens everywhere. But with cheetahs, for example, there's a lot of people, when there's a cub, people want to see it.
Yeah.
It's pretty natural for someone to want to see a baby animal. But people will crowd around it and then there's a statistic. I can't really remember what it is exactly, so don't quote me. But I think they often get killed is basically the moral of the story. The cubs end up dead when they're crowded. I don't know whether it attracts attention from other predators to those cubs or they don't survive.
Yeah,
so there's things like
that. The tourism has a massive impact.
Yes, so you have to be really careful and go with the right companies that respect animals.
Have you noticed a big increase in, say, safari since you've been shooting?
Yes and no. I think the cost of living has made it's kind of hard to tell. It has gone up, but in general, people aren't traveling as much as they did before COVID.
Yeah.
So I went to Kenya first in 2017, so that was a while ago. And it kind of seems similar to me, but I've not experienced the mass crowds like other people have. So I can't really judge
I was
that.
Just curious.
But I do think a lot of people are interested in going on safari in general, but I haven't been to a lot of the other countries where people go as well. So I can only really compare it. I've only been to South Africa and Kenya, so I can only talk about it from those two places.
Just because talking to some people like Jared and Alicia from Nematosaurus and, a few of the other people at Condo is, that some of them travel full time or they work really heavily with tourism boards.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk about, certain locations becoming inaccessible or like the difference that tourism has had, especially like I think about Iceland. I was talking to Andy about Iceland and how things have changed. Like it used to be free roam access. Maybe there would be a little path, whereas now they're like fully elevated platforms. They've put in information centers. Like how much has changed in 5 or 6 years.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've been to Iceland as well, and that was in 2016 or something. So I would be interested to know that because I'm sure it's very different. I haven't seen much of a shift in it since between the 2 times that I've been. Like the 2017, then I went back in 2021. So it was quite a chunk in between. I didn't notice a huge difference in it. Cost has gone up, like the park fees and things have gone up in price for sure, but I haven't noticed a huge increase, but I'm sure it has. It's really hard to tell when you go to specific areas and work with certain companies. Like I try and go with people that are quieter and
what's the ideal size for your kind of workshops? Like, do you find obviously the experience is better per person if they're smaller? And obviously, are you partnering with a company that's kind of like so supportive of that, or like what's that process like?
So the Kenya one, when I first went to Kenya after COVID, so my second time, I met a guide there who is amazing. And then I've kind of partnered with him to put the trip together. And same with my Queensland one. I just have the idea and I searched out a ethical company that was caring of wildlife and not exploitative of them. So partner with them to help bring it to life.
Do you have any funny animal behavior stories? Like really funny stuff?
Oh. I can't think of anything super funny because I feel like animals, if you spend enough time with animals, they're just always doing something funny.
Yeah.
Like you learn behavior, like with flying foxes, how they hang upside down to pee and like things like that. Like because otherwise they pee on their face, you know, and they don't want to do that. But no, I can't really think of anything. I do have a really crazy wildlife story though, but it's not necessarily funny.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. There was in Kenya, the second time I went, so in 2021, we were just sitting there with a lion. I think there was like 4 or 5 lionesses in the shade. And this goes back to the animal behavior thing as well. So it was like a bit of a valley and we're looking over this river and then we could just see a heap of hyenas just being a bit weird. Like, no one else was rushing there. We're just looking at them thinking they're just acting a bit funny. Like what's going on over there? So then we rush over and as we get there, there's a hippo carcass in the water and honestly like 50 to 70 hyenas in the water.
70 hyenas.
Heaps of hyenas, like more than I've ever seen in my life. And we're just watching them. They're making so much noise. It's like wild. Then all of a sudden, I think there was like 4 or 5 lions came and it was literally a battle between all these hyenas and lions over a hippo carcass. And then crocodiles came. So it was like a 3-way battle. It was wild. And the most amazing part about this was it was literally just us and one other car. Because generally in scenes like that, you're going to attract more cars. It's going to get a bit crowded. But it was just us and it was the most amazing experience. And the crocodiles came and they were just like toying with this hippo carcass and they just pulled it away and kept it in the middle. And then we were just sitting there for ages and all the animals were just going wild around this river, like watching it and trying to like get this hippo. It was just the craziest thing. And even just watching hyena, the way they interact is funny in itself. Like animals just do weird things, which is the joy of photographing them, I think. Because you also, when you're looking through a lens, you're looking at specific things. A lot of people will say that you aren't paying attention to a scene if you're just staring through a lens, but I disagree with that. I don't know what you think about that. But I think when you are looking so specifically at an animal, you notice things that your eye wouldn't. I don't know what it's like with photographing humans. Might be a bit different. Really. Yeah. Because a lot of people say I'm
not usually using a 100, 400 on a person.
Yeah. But a lot of people will say that you're not engaged in you're distracted if you've got a camera. But I actually don't agree with that at all because I think you're watching more intently when you're zoomed in and you're seeing weird things that animals do. And
you're also seeing what their eyes are doing.
Exactly.
And like you said, that what kind of expression they're making.
Yeah. And also like you will notice a scar on their face that you might not. And then you're like, how did they get that? And then you want to backtrack and learn how they did it. Or like if you zoom, when you're just looking at a flying fox colony or any animal scene where there's lots of animals, it is distracting in itself because you've got so much to look at. But when you have a camera and a lens, you're zoomed in on something really specific, and then you can learn more about that specific animal and what that animal is doing and the way they're interacting with another one. Or like I probably wouldn't know that flying foxes hang upside down to pee if I didn't have a big lens, you know? So yeah, it's very interesting.
And what's in your bag when you shoot domestically, and is it different when you travel? Do you pack lighter? Do you just take everything?
I kind of just take everything.
Yeah.
I have a pretty simple kit to begin with. I don't have a heap of stuff because I'm always at 400 pretty much. But I love my 100-400 because it's very versatile. And especially when you're on safari, you kind of want the ability to zoom out when it's needed.
How close do you really get on safari? Because I'm guessing
pretty close.
Yeah, how close?
You're not lions will be next to you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And then 100's pretty tight then.
It's pretty tight. You have to kind of, but the issue is that when you're in a car and you can't go off road, so you're stuck in this one area. So you just kind of have to sit there and like wait for it to move or something.
Would you take a second body with a wide lens?
I will now that I have my A1 Mark II. I will take, I do have a 135, which I love. I do love that. But that's not even what
That's still too tight, I think.
I still don't think you need less than 100, to be honest.
Okay.
It depends for how I photograph though. If you want environmental scenes, then you might need something a bit wider, but I don't necessarily. I just wait for it to, and I also don't want to be that close anyway because
yeah, like when we talked about the ethics earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also sometimes animals will come close to you. You aren't necessarily going close to them. They just want to wander close to you. So you kind of, that's their choice to do that. You don't want to put yourself in the position where you're too close, but if they come to you, then that's not an ethical issue. But the way I like to photograph is that I want the compression anyway. So I want to be further away. Even if I can get close to an animal, I want to be further away and zoomed in.
Yeah.
Because it gives me a cleaner background, less distractions. So, but my 100-400, I have a 135 and I have a 90mm macro. And I generally bring them no matter where I'm going, if it's domestic or international.
Yeah. So what's coming up next for you?
Yeah, I didn't plan on doing a heap of workshops, but it's just kind of happened that way. There's just an interest in it. And I think also the fact that it's about 50% of the people that follow me, like I don't have a huge audience, but I have a very engaged audience.
Which is what you want anyway.
Yeah. Quality over quantity, in my opinion. They're 50% are overseas, so I just felt like there was a gap there that I wanted to make something that would entice people to come to Australia. That's how I started it. And so I made a 10-day trip in Queensland with James, amazing guide. And then that sold out. And then I was like, well, now I'm going to do that again, but now I want to do something that, because a lot of people will also message me and say Australia's really far, which it is a long way. So then I did the Kenya one. There was a lot of interest in that. So then that's kind of happened. And now they keep selling out. So I'm like, there's something here that I need to
if they keep selling out, that's a good kind of indicator.
Yes, for sure. But there was a time last year where there was this huge discussion on Threads of people being like, you can't teach workshops. Not to me specifically, but you can't teach workshops unless you're at least 5 to 10 years in. And I was like, what? It was heated discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Fully heated. And then I started questioning myself and I was like, should I not be doing this? Like, what is going on here? And then the more like I read into it and people started engaging with it, they were like, yeah, but if you think about it, when you're in a workplace, necessarily not this freelance world that we're in, but in a general workplace, you're often being taught by the person that was just where you were.
Yeah, definitely. Like a handover almost.
Yeah, like a handover. So people are often interested in how you got to where you are if you would just.
Well, that's why we wanted you on the podcast, because like going to where you are now so quickly, because obviously like every photographer builds their skills over a certain amount of time. It doesn't really matter how long it takes. It depends on how invested you are. Like if you shoot once a week, that's cool. If you shoot every single day, that's cool. But I think it is really valuable you sharing like how you get to where you are now. And like you said, it's not about time frame.
No, that's what I thought. That's why I feel like it's something that I need to continue doing, because why would I say no to that when the demand is there?
Yeah, and
also,
and like if it's
crazy,
it's like the 10,000 hours thing. I know that's like wrong and no one follows it anymore. But if you sink your teeth into a particular genre and really learn the ins and outs of it, then why not? Exactly.
And the demand was there, so I am going to continue doing it. I don't want to be just like a workshop teacher. Like I don't necessarily want to do that in terms of just constantly teaching or running these trips, but it is something that I will definitely continue doing.
Is it something you also want to do because it gives you access back to those locations? Because you're running the workshop and it makes the trip more feasible, I'm guessing.
It does, yes, but it's more so like it's just so fun.
Yeah, it would be.
The people are so fun. You make lifelong friends, and it's just amazing to see other people engage with a place that you love so deeply and like see them fall in love with a skill that you really love. Like that's just an amazing thing to watch, because a lot of them it's kind of 50-50 in terms of full beginners and then other people that are just doing it as a hobby, or some professionals, and they just want to build a community, because it's quite lonely sometimes. Wildlife photography, you're not really with other people.
yeah, that makes sense.
So it's nice to meet others. So that's why I do it. But
do you have any workshops coming up?
Yes.
You want to plug that?
Next, they're all sold out though.
No.
I have my Queensland one, then my Kenya one, and a Melbourne one. But I am in the midst of planning one for Tasmania.
Oh, exciting.
Next year. It'll be a 10-day-ish trip.
That's cool. Where are you heading in Tassie?
It's in the early stages of the planning, but it'll be starting down in Hobart and then driving up the East Coast, finding as much animals as we can.
So where can everyone find you on socials and things like that?
My handle is Kate Newman Photo across all social media, and my website is just katenewman.com, which is where my prints and workshops are, and my ebook. I have an ebook.
Yeah,
I didn't mention that.
Yeah, do you want to plug the ebook quickly?
Yeah, that was another thing that I realized, was that people wanted to do online stuff, so then I made an ebook. So yeah, and it's doing pretty well. People are really interested in it.
That's awesome.
So that's on there as well.
Yeah.
And that just basically covers everything that I know about how I do what I do.
Yeah.
From gear to settings to editing, the whole shebang.
Yeah, there's only so much we can dig into in about an hour's podcast. But yeah, if they're interested and they want to dig into some of the technical stuff and learn a bit more about what you do, yeah, definitely hit up the ebook.
Yes, thanks, Clyde.
That's all right. All right, that's been another episode of the Full Frame Podcast, presented by Sony. Thanks so much for coming in and flying all the way up from Melbourne this morning and just sitting down for a chat.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. See you next week.